Hi, I'm Eddie Mam here from Metropole Property Strategist, and in this series of short videos, Michael Yardney and I discuss the most common mistakes made by investors in the hope that you can obviously learn from some of those mistakes and begin to build some lasting wealth. Today, we're going to be discussing location and the importance of location. Welcome, Michael.
Hello, Ahmed.
Now, Michael, we always hear estate agents use the phrase location, location, location. How important is location, and is that phrase true?
Well, I guess the phrase is true, and it's one of the mistakes investors make underestimating the importance of location, because in my mind, location is critical. It does about 80%, the bulk of the heavy lifting in your property's performance, and then of course you've got to own the right property in that location. But as long as I've been investing, there's been an argument about where to invest. Capital cities or regional areas, inner suburbs or outer suburbs. So what is the right location is often in a bit of contention with people. Now, I know you, and you know in our research statistics at Metropole, we've gone back close to 30 years in all suburbs in every capital city in Australia. And looking back at that research, some significant trends have emerged. Of course, there are exceptions. There's occasional regional area that's performed better than underperforming capital cities. But in general, the inner and middle ring suburbs of our capital cities have exhibited significantly stronger capital growth compared to the outer suburbs and compared to the regional suburbs.
Sure. The inner middle rings, especially the residential suburbs next to those commercial areas, have outperformed in terms of growth, but has it always been that way?
Well, interestingly, no. At the time of federation in the early 1900s, properties in regional Australia were as valuable as properties in our capital cities. Think back at those times, most of us lived on the land, and affluent farmers built lovely mansions in our big regional cities where land was often as valuable as in the industrialised capital cities. But things have changed since then. We then began to industrialise and people moved to the capital cities, and over time land in our capital cities became more valuable than in regional Australia. But interestingly, the cycle has moved on again, and Australia is no longer an industrial nation, it's no longer a manufacturing country, and we're basically a service-based economy, things like finance, health, education. And this means that our higher paying jobs, where people have got more disposable income and can afford to pay more for properties, in general tend to be close to or in the central business districts of our big capital cities. And close to there, maybe not right near there, but close to there is where more and more people want to live, making land more valuable in those inner and middle ring suburbs. Now, not surprisingly, that's where a lot of the amenity is, where there's better public transport, where there's now more shops, more amenities, better education. And again, this has made land closer to the CBD, not right in the CBD. Well, I guess right in the CBD is the most valuable for commercial real estate. But for mums and dads and investors like you and me, land close to the CBD in the inner suburbs and the middle ring suburbs is where land's more valuable. Look, if money was no choice and you asked people, where would you want to live? Where would you like to live? You'd find in general they'd want to live close to the city, close to the CBD, or close to the water. And in these areas, land is going to remain more valuable in the foreseeable future. And I guess as our roads become more crowded, walkability, proximity to good public transport is going to be one of the other big factors too.
I agree with that. And to play devil's advocate, I know one question we're going to be asked is, that's all well and good, but aren't those areas unaffordable? I mean, especially for our Sydney clients.
Unaffordable to whom, Ahmed? You're right, that's what people do say. And it's obviously not affordable to a lot of investors or home buyers. But the reason the prices are going up in those locations are because they are affordable to those people who can afford it, and pushing up the prices. Now, this is not a judge of people, but there will always be some people who will be prepared to and able to buy in those areas, and a group of people who won't be able to. So we like investing in those areas where people have got a high disposable income and are able to and prepared to live in those locations, rather than the outer suburbs where people are struggling to keep up their mortgage. Now, we know currently wages aren't going up much, and it's unlikely to do so in the foreseeable future. We also know that currently interest rates are low, but they've been low for a long time. So there's no real impetus for property values to go up, because the flow-through effect of low interest rates has already had its effect, and anyone who could borrow money to buy homes has. And if wages aren't going up, how are they going to be able to afford more? So in many parts of Australia, they're not going to be able to afford more. But in some parts of Australia, wages are still going up. People who've got multiple income streams, who've got commissions, who are in the higher paying jobs, they've got more disposable income. And that's the areas where land is going to be more valuable because people are going to want to live there, Ahmed.
Are there any other trends that you can see where land will potentially become more scarce or more valuable?
That's a good point, Ahmed, because gentrification is one of the driving forces that pushes up land values. And while over the last 20 years the gentrification occurred in the inner suburbs of our many major capital cities, those areas that in the past were home to the migrants and to a lot of factories, but over time the factories moved to the outer suburbs, the migrants moved out, and the hipsters and the yuppies moved in. Those suburbs gentrified, and you could see a difference in the shops, in the streets, in the houses as people did them up. Now, in many cases, it's the next ripple of middle ring suburbs in our capital cities that are gentrifying. Suburbs where houses were probably built 50, 60, 70 years ago, but have become past their use-by date because the land on which they're sitting has become so valuable. And these areas are where affluent, gentrified demographic, often baby boomers wanting to downsize or wanting to live there. So they're buying old homes and renovating them or extending them or pulling them down to build new homes, or where developers are pulling down homes to build townhouses or small apartment blocks where a lot of these more affluent people want to live. So gentrification is another way that land becomes more valuable because the people moving in are more affluent than the previous demographic there. And as you drive through the shopping centres in these areas, you'll see they're thriving, they're pandering to the new modern lifestyle. They've got goat cheese pizza and smashed avocado and those fancy beers on tap, and people are driving white SUVs rather than Holden Utes and Commodores.
So there you have it. Location is absolutely important, but you also have to be very selective about where that location is. Thank you very much for your insights, Michael.
My pleasure, Ivan.